What's up, Wall fans? What's up, Facebook friends? What's up, social media world? Welcome to a very, very special edition of Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. It's not actually a special edition. What's happening is because tomorrow is Thanksgiving and it's Thursday, the night we usually record, we're going to go ahead and record episode 37 tonight, Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Eve, I guess you could say, is when we're recording episode 37. So, join in, as usual. I am the one and only Sean O'Rourke, and we're getting into a full episode. We got the live feed going. We will be checking out what people are commenting on and all the other things, as usual. I need to stop doing this whole spiel every week because everyone knows what the hell is going on. But we're going to get into some recording here. Episode 37, Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. You know you need a little break before family gets into town tomorrow or tonight, whatever it is. Mine's coming into town tonight. It just depends, you know, all that good stuff. So, snuggle up, grab a cup of tea, grab a beer preferably. That's what we do. It's Thanksgiving week. And enjoy a little bit of Go Tell It to the Wall podcast, episode 37. Alright, Wall fans, that's right. Welcome to another, as always, exciting edition of Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. I am, as always, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, coming at you with episode 37. That's right, episode 37 of Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. For those of you that only listen to the audio of the podcast itself, you won't even notice a difference. However, if you are someone watching on the live feed or that watches on YouTube, really, even if it's at a later date, it doesn't matter, but it's Wednesday night. That's right. Usually, we are recording Go Tell It to the Wall podcast on Thursday night, but because it is Thanksgiving this week, we are going on Wednesday night, recording with the full live feed on Facebook. It is on Facebook as we speak. I don't know why I continue to say that to those of you that only listen to the audio, because if you only listen to the audio, it doesn't matter that we're live right now on Facebook because you're listening to it after the fact. That's right. Many, many years in broadcasting, and I still can't get things straight. You know, it could be, and I'm going to warn everyone right now, we're going off the rails so quick this week, so quick. You know why? Because the one thing I'm not allowed to do that some people like when I do, but I don't allow myself to do it, is have an extra beer before the show. And you know what? It's Thanksgiving week, so I did that this week. Yeah. We've already had too much beer. On that note, let's get into some things. So, to kick off the show, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. At the top of the show, I'm going to say right now, one of the things I am extremely thankful for is for all of you that listen out there, all of you out there that support, all of you that have done everything you can to get the word out about Go Tell It to the Wall podcast, and also Sean O'Rourke Live, the YouTube channel, and all that good stuff, everything kind of under the Go Tell It to the Wall umbrella. So I am extremely thankful to all of you, and happy Thanksgiving to those of you listening. If you are listening in the U.S., if you're listening outside of the U.S., Thanksgiving means nothing to you. Nothing. Now, maybe it means something, I don't know, but Thanksgiving is a United States holiday that we celebrate. We celebrate when a bunch of pilgrims came over and gave diseases to a bunch of indigenous people. Yeah, no, that's the only thing I'm going to say on that. I'm teasing. I enjoy Thanksgiving very much. All right, social plugs. That's right, you can find us in many, many different places. One of those would be Facebook at facebook.com/Go Tell It to the Wall. You can also find us, follow us on Twitter at that weird little @ at Tell the Wall Pod, or at Magic Muppet. That's right, Magic Muppet is my own personal Twitter account, which, as I always say, sees a little more action just because that's the way things are. Also, search YouTube. Just search Go Tell It to the Wall, and you will see our YouTube channel up there with all of the awesome videos, all of the live feed videos, and the teaser videos, and all that good stuff. You can find all that on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing is helpful to everyone. It's going to help you keep in touch with us, and it's going to help us as we're moving things along here and growing Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. So make sure you are also subscribing. And as mentioned on the last episode, and as launched literally during the last episode, Sean O'Rourke Live, check it out when you have some time. It's actually already getting tons of traction. It's crazy. 2 days after it was launched, I'm looking at numbers for the podcast, and everything was like through the roof. I don't want to say through the roof. I'm exaggerating a little bit. There was a marked increase in the numbers and the traffic going to the podcast. So thank you all of you who have checked out Sean O'Rourke Live. And if you haven't already checked it out, head on over there, SeanO'RourkeLive.com. That's going to be kind of your central location for all of those social mediums that I just mentioned, as well as the Patreon page. I do want to give a warning on the Patreon page. We had some problems with the link this morning. It has since been fixed, but we're also working to populate everything else to the Patreon page. So if you're looking to be a patron, thank you to Chris and Bridget, who were our first 2 official patrons. We're getting it fixed. Go on there, put your name down, and we'll get everything straightened out, and it's in the works. It's very finicky, and it's difficult trying to get everything kind of streamlined on that side. It's essentially another platform that I have now added to the podcast and to the overarching Go Tell It to the Wall empire, if you will, that I now have to continually update. Not on a daily basis, but minimum weekly. So you're just adding to my workload. That's really what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it all for the good of all of you out there, for all of the Wall fans, and to continue to grow this brand, because like I said, it's out there. We're getting such good feedback. It's just a matter of getting it more and more and more and more and more out there. So thank you to all of you who have done that. One thing I'm putting at the top of the show, because I have neglected to do this the past couple weeks, and that would be the update on our little friend Alec Rosenberg. That's right, Alec Rosenberg, who, if you've been following the podcast, knows that he went in for a spinal surgery. He has CP, and he was looking to get his legs fixed in St. Louis. They live in New York, him and his mother and father, Amy and John Rosenberg, along with his other 2 siblings. And the surgery was an absolute success. They did very well. Everything came out perfectly. He started his rehab in St. Louis, and he is now currently in upstate New York, continuing his rehab and essentially learning how to walk again. So that is completely on me. It's been in my notes, and the funny thing is I get updates because I'm friends with John and I'm friends with Alec's mother, Amy. So I get updates on these things, and I've just been forgetting to update all of you. So there you go. Alec is doing extremely well, and we'll tell you a funny story that I'm stealing from John and Amy. Alec is one of a set of twins. His twin brother doesn't have CP, and really when you meet Alec, it would take you a few minutes to realize. However, a lot of the nurses at the hospital where he was doing his rehab and starting his physical therapy didn't realize that he was a twin. So his identical twin brother comes running out of his hospital room one night when he and his sister were in there visiting Alec, and all the nurses literally thought it was a complete miracle, which is kind of ridiculous, but also kind of funny at the same time. So I found that amusing. But clearly, Alec, who is a miracle overall in the way he's handling everything, still has a little ways to go on his physical therapy. So continue sending your thoughts and prayers. Yeah, if you're into praying, do that. But really, just all of your good vibes and everything you can, any kind of positive thinking, Alec's way, because he is continuing his physical therapy process, but he is doing very, very well. And we will continue to update everyone as we move along. As I get updates on him and everything else. And one more thing for the opening, and that's this Thanksgiving poll that I found. It came out from the Associated Press. And this is just a warning and also a sympathetic voice to all of you. And I will tell you right now, according to a poll by the Associated Press, 1 in 3 Americans dreads political talk at Thanksgiving. That's right, dreads political talk at Thanksgiving. I will tell you, I have friends and relatives who were dreading political talks around the holidays prior to November of 2016. So I can only imagine how much crazier that has gotten. So just know you're not alone. You're not alone. And the way I look at it is the best thing to do when you're around family for the holidays and this kind of stuff. You don't want to get into disagreements and everything else. Just leave the politics to the side. I know that's really difficult. This podcast started out as a podcast that was not going to be political, but then because of the common sense theme, we had to maybe get a little political. I still don't think we're political. We just use common sense to debunk things like everything that Orange Man's does and stands for. All right, let's move on to some social here. Social media. This means social media. Yeah, all right. And this is the stuff I find that's amusing. What's going on in social media. So some of this is amusing, some of this is irritating, whatever else it might be. Man, that extra beer before this shit. Okay. Here we go. So one of the things I've been thoroughly enjoying right now would be one of the trending hashtags on Twitter and everywhere else, and that would be hashtag worst first date. That's right. I like to give these out to everyone because honestly, I don't find myself scrolling through social media as much as many other people do. My wife is constantly, I don't want to say constantly, but like to kill time, she's scrolling through social media. I just don't do that. But when I find something funny like this, then I tend to get kind of sucked in because I'm looking at all the funny stories. And that would be, as I said, hashtag worst first dates. So people are sharing their worst first dates on social media with that hashtag worst first date. And I want to share the top one right now that I've found. And this is from someone named Tracy. I'm not even going to give her Twitter handle, but her name's Tracy. And she says, he showed up an hour late, drove through McDonald's, said, "You want anything?" Then parked at a zoo and said, "I've got a condom." Hashtag worst first date. And I'll be honest, that might be taking the crown. Because there are worst first dates, you know, where a guy's a total creep and everything else. I'm not trying to get into that. But when you're talking, like, on the line of humor and just ridiculousness, that one probably gets there. And there's all kinds of fun ones on here. If you just search hashtag worst first date, you'll find all kinds of awesome things. I mean, one of the other ones is, and this is from someone named Ruth. He took me, a female, to a gay club, got drunk, came out of the closet, met a guy, and gave me $40 to catch a taxi home. Now, good on you, dude, for coming out of the closet. Maybe don't bring a date to then come out of the closet. Now, I'm sure he wasn't planning on coming out of the closet, but that is pretty ridiculously funny as well. So check these out when you're bored, when you need to kill some time, on Twitter, on all the social platforms. And I want to share one with you, which goes nowhere near this point of worst first dates. And I'm not even going to get into details, but years ago when I was single, before I met my wife, someone I'd met out at a social gathering. Wasn't not even a friend of a friend, a random person I met, and I scheduled a date, going up to Woodland Hills, to a restaurant up there in Woodland Hills, just on a random Friday. I'm like, okay, you know, we seem to get along. I go up there, we go to the bar, and we're having drinks. And it's funny because, like, I could tell 5 minutes into having drinks, like, this is not going to go well. And she's sitting there talking about, how, you know, all the stuff she does and how, basically talking about how cool she is, you know. And then we get our table, and I go to sit down at the table. I'm sitting there for a few minutes, and I'm going, this is a waste of time, and I'm going to have to sit through an entire dinner with this woman. So I used it. I used a little trick. And I went to the restroom, and I came back on the phone. And I pretended like I was talking to my roommate at the time. And I got off the phone, and I go, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We had a pipe burst at the house, and I got to get home to help with the cleanup on this leak." She goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'll call you, whatever, you know, we'll do this another time." There was no burst pipe, obviously. This date was so bad, and like I said, I'm not getting into details. This date was so bad. You know what I did? Is I went home on a Friday night, single, on a Friday night, left a date, and I went home and I painted my bathroom on a Friday night. I went home, cracked a couple beers, and painted my bathroom, because painting my bathroom on a Friday night was more enjoyable than hanging out with this woman on a Friday night. So, not up there with worst dates ever. However, just know that it was so bad that I went and inhaled paint fumes on a Friday night, because that was better than spending time with this particular young lady that I'd met. I never spoke to her again. Never spoke to her again. Sometimes you just know. That's the thing, you know? Sometimes, like, this ain't working. I do it with friends, too. It's like, "Oh, yeah, we'll hang out for a while, meet someone at a party," and you realize, like, 10 minutes, like, yeah, dude, we ain't gonna hang out. We're not gonna hang out. You know? We're not. We don't, you know, that's cool. You're a cool person. We ain't gonna hang out. Alright, I want to get a little serious here for a few minutes. Not really fully serious, but I do want to talk about this because I've talked about this on the podcast previously, and I've talked about parents and especially fathers kind of utilizing their children for clicks and YouTube fame and all this other stuff. Well, there's a YouTube channel that was fairly popular called Toy Freaks, and this was a single dad and his two daughters. His two daughters looked to be under 10, maybe like 7 and 9, somewhere around there. I didn't even want to get into full details because really this shouldn't have been happening in the first place. Well, what happened was YouTube updated their standards, or what the hell do you? Bridget is sick tonight, so I don't know that we're gonna have Bridget for this, and with the rescheduling and everything else. But Bridget would be able to pull that one up for me. But like I said, he had created, and they changed they updated their user agreement. That's the freaking word I'm looking for. That's that thing. Anytime you do something on the internet, they're trying. Yeah. User agreement. They updated their user agreement, and basically caught up with this guy. And they made him removed a bunch of his videos. He actually has 8.53 million subscribers and was among the top 100 most viewed channels on YouTube, which is fine. But he was constantly doing pranks, playing pranks on his daughters. In fact, there was pranks where he would walk into the bathroom while they were showering or bathing and throw a frog in there and thought it was hilarious. There was another video he did where his daughters were acting like they were babies. To the point where they were spitting up all over the place. They're crawling around on the ground, spitting up, like fake spit up, obviously. And here's okay, ridiculousness. You shouldn't be using your children like that. His daughters were actually peeing in their clothes because they're acting like newborn babies. And he was posting all of this on YouTube. Posting all of it on YouTube because he thought it was funny and it was getting him clicks. Well, you know what, Wall fans? That's fucking child abuse. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're thinking. That's child abuse. That is child abuse. What you're doing with your daughters is absolutely child abuse. And I hope social services gets called in on this because this guy is utilizing and using his daughters in order to get clicks, to get fame, to get YouTube notoriety. Get the hell out of here. I'm going to tell you right now, Wall fans, and this isn't even me being biased. I've heard this from many other people. I have one of the cutest daughters on the face of the earth. I do. It's just a fact. People will be walking down the street and they stop and they freak out with how cute she is. You know what? I don't put her on any of these videos. She's been on a little teaser video because she's cute, but I'm not using her for anything. Like the dads that are punishing their kids, and putting it on YouTube, and then their kids are going to see this 10 years from now and be incredibly embarrassed when they're in high school and all their friends are seeing it and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm not doing that with my daughter. To the point where people have literally asked me, well, why don't you put her in print ads and in commercials? No, because that's not for my daughter. I want my daughter to be a kid. I want my daughter to be a baby. I want her to be a toddler. I want her to grow up normal. I'm not saying you're not growing up normal if you're doing those things, but it's just not for me. I don't need to build anything off of my daughter's cuteness. Or, that being said, especially off their embarrassment. So, I'm looking for this guy's name. I'm trying to remember his name because he's a terrible, terrible, terrible individual, and we just want nothing to do with him. The good thing is he actually did take down all of his other videos because he probably realized he was a moron and a child abuser, and basically has just disappeared from YouTube. And what we as Wall fans need to do, and Go Tell Us the Wall podcast and Go Tell Us the Wall family need to do, is make sure that people like this aren't getting notoriety on social media, on YouTube, or any of those places. Because this is a terrible individual, and I don't want to see stuff like that on social media. So if you see something, say something, Wall fans. That's the old adage. It's so cliche, and y'all have seen that in offices and everything else. But you know what? It's true. See something, say something. You see a jackass like this using his kids, abusing his kids, and putting it on YouTube, you report it, Wall fans. That's what we do here at Go Tell Us the Wall. Is we use common sense. Common freaking sense. That's right. Moving on, because that one's making me too mad, and like I've said, had too many beers tonight. Too many beers. So we're going off the rails. We're already getting close there. Another thing I want to talk about in the social media realm, and the reason I'm talking about this in the social media realm is really, I don't want to get into this too much, because this is something that could be unpacked for an entire episode. And that would be something that you may have seen floating around social media called net neutrality. Hashtag net neutrality. This is something that's been threatened for years. For years. In fact, my good friends in San Diego that had a podcast years ago, they were constantly talking about it because it was something that was on the horizon. We're finally hitting that point. Again, I'm not going to get into details with all of you. If you use the internet, if you listen to this podcast and you use the internet, you should be concerned about net neutrality. 100%. There's no reason you shouldn't be concerned about net neutrality. Think about this. Think about this. Everyone needs to understand this. This is ridiculous because you could end up, and I don't even want to get into details because we could unpack this for an entire episode. You could be paying individual a la carte for individual sites if they eliminate net neutrality. And I will tell all of you out there, Wall fans and social media world right now, if you don't think we're heading to what Handmaid's Tale has in their show, you're stupid. Because everything that's happening right now with the Orange Menace in office and all of these laws that they're passing and these tax increases making the rich richer, we are heading toward Handmaid's Tale. We are going there. And if you haven't seen Handmaid's Tale and you don't realize, you don't think that we're not in a bad place here as a country, really as the world, go watch Handmaid's Tale. And also understand what the hell net neutrality is and why that is important to not only the internet, not only websites and businesses, but honestly to our way of life. We have intertwined our lives completely with social media and with the internet. And they're going to take that away. That's what's going to happen. If you don't believe me, go look up what the internet looks like in Portugal. Go look it up. Go look it up, Wall fan. And have nightmares like I've been having for the past few nights. Alright, moving on here. Moving on. I think we're scaring people off the live feed. It's kind of going back and forth. Let's get into the beer this week. Alright, we got a special one, and as I mentioned, I've had too many of these tonight. Or let's see how we even get through the whole podcast without me just kind of falling asleep on the studio desk here. But this week, I'm enjoying a nice brew from Magic Hat Brewing Company. That's right, Magic Hat Brewing Company. This is a nice little craft brewery out of Vermont. Shout out to Legal Bear. That's right, out of Vermont, out of New England. I guess you get. I think Vermont's part of New England. Let's see, I love New England. I just didn't grow up there. And this one would be the number 9, and I'm calling it number 9. Millennials would probably call this hashtag 9, but it's the number 9. Number 9 ale with natural flavor. I'll tell you right now, I'm not a huge fan. It's good. I would try more Magic Hat beers. If you like fruit in your beer, you will like this one. It's not super fruity. It's not like a shandy or anything, but it's definitely got a little fruity hintiness in there. In fact, I gave my wife a sip of one before I came in the studio, and she was like, ooh, I like that. And she's not a pale ale drinker. She'll drink regular beer, but she's not a pale ale drinker, and this one, it's pale ale with a little bit of fruit in it. So if you're into that kind of thing, check out Magic Hat Brewing Company, not quite pale ale number 9. I don't know. It's good. It's okay. It does the job. I'm a little too buzzed to be recording this thing right now, but it does the job. Okay. And again, shout out to Legal Bear, beer from Vermont. We're trying to mix it up a little bit. I have so many Southern California and Northern California beers that come to, California beers and Southern California, Northern California, California. I know, and there's Bridget. Bridget just jumped on. She's going to catch up here in a minute. But we've had so many California beers that I've been eager to kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm still waiting for that beer shipment from Alabama. Should be coming here any day now. But we're trying to mix it up a little bit. So a little beer from the Northeast, that's the best way to do it. And of course, it's doing its job. It's just not my favorite flavor of the beers that I've had. This isn't as bad as that one like weird beer that we had. Oh God, there was one bad that Bridget, don't be sorry. Bridget, you don't have to be sorry. Bridget's a little late joining. I know you're very sick this week as well, so thank you for joining, Bridget. But you never have to be sorry for not joining. You have 2 kids at home. I have trouble getting into the studio and I have 1 kid at home. Come on, you don't ever be sorry for not being on time or not joining. Especially because I don't pay you. In fact, it's the opposite, because now Bridget pays me because Bridget is officially a patron, and Bridget does all of this work for free. She is our honor producer for free because she believes in the podcast and she believes in kind of what we do and all the common sense and having passion and all that good stuff. So don't be sorry, Bridget. Thank you for joining. As always, thank you for joining. Sure, Chris will be jumping on there shortly. All right, let's move on to some TV, film, and books. We got a little tangented there. A little tangented on the beer. It happens. I told you, we're already off the rails. We're just continuing to go off the rails some more. But TV, film, books. TV, film, and books. I do have a little bit of clarification. And how long can I make that word? Clarification. So a little story came out about Justice League and Rotten Tomatoes. We talked on episode 36 about Rotten Tomatoes and how they were holding back on their reviews of Justice League. And the rumors, and really what was kind of accepted, was because Warner Brothers owns 30% of Rotten Tomatoes, that they had somehow delayed those reviews from coming out. Which made sense. Made absolute complete sense. Well, another story came out this week. And what had happened was Rotten Tomatoes had launched this new show. Now it's a web show where weekly on Thursdays they do an entire show revolving around a particular movie, and then they release the reviews as they're talking about it after the show's over. So what happened was Justice League was their movie for last Thursday's show. Coincidentally, they record on Thursday. Well, they release the show. I don't know when they're recording, but hey, Thursdays. Something good about Thursday. SHIT. So happy it's Thursday. On that note, a good friend of mine, AJ Calabrese, and a friend of his have launched a new podcast. I've only had time to listen to a few minutes of it, but if you are a big podcast listener, I'm not sure. I'll find out from him. We'll talk about it more. They are on YouTube, but look up Dad Fiction on YouTube. Anyway, back to Justice League. What happened was because that show, they had Justice League for that show last week, that was actually the reasoning for the reviews not coming out, because they hold the reviews until the show actually airs, till the show goes up. Completely understand that. Like, I actually totally get that. It's unfortunate that they couldn't get out ahead of this and explain that last week, because what happened was, I think this negatively affected Justice League. I don't think it needed any help to be negatively affected, because it sounds to me like that thing's a piece of junk. Justice League, it is not doing well. Not doing well. In fact, to the point that they're poised to lose about $100 million on the film. Yeah, that's not chump change. That's not chump change, especially when you're not Disney, who Disney can just lose $100 million on a film and put out another piece of junk that makes them $200 billion. Warner doesn't quite have that luxury. Universal did a couple years ago, but really no one else has that luxury. So I do feel like I need to backtrack a little bit on getting on Rotten Tomatoes. However, you know what? Rotten Tomatoes, Warner Bros., get out ahead of this stuff. Like, explain this stuff. Explain this. Information moves at the speed of light these days, you know? Explain this. That's all it is. It's knowledge. Just drop some knowledge on us, you know? Warner Brothers, Rotten Tomatoes. Just drop a little knowledge. We'll see, because it's still a terrible movie. Rotten Tomatoes didn't kill it. It's just a terrible movie in general. From what I hear. I won't be paying to see it. For God's sake, I'm not even going to see Star Wars, so why would I be going to see Justice League? Especially when I'm telling you, Jason Momoa, just give it a minute. I was wrong last week when I said he'd be the next one, because the next one to come out on sexual harassment charges, which I'm not surprised at all. I spent many years at the Walt Disney Company. I never experienced it myself, but this was kind of commonly known to people at Disney. So everyone that's like, oh, Disney's such a family-friendly company, all this other stuff. Yeah, a bunch of those executives knew that John Lasseter was a skeevy son of a bitch, and they let him continue to go. Why? Why? Why would they possibly do that? The founder of Pixar, why would Disney just... What would be their motivation to turn a blind eye to a creepy son of a bitch who is sexually harassing women in the workplace? Oh, could it be that Pixar makes them a lot of money? A lot of money. That makes sense. Think about that, Wall fans. For those of you out there, family-friendly company and all this other stuff. Yeah, you know what Disney's all about? Bottom line. Bottom line. And the interesting thing is, so John Lasseter, again, if you're not familiar with him, he's one of the founders of Pixar. And he's one of the heads of Pixar, you know, under Disney, once Disney officially purchased Pixar a few years ago. He has taken a leave of absence from Pixar. And as I mentioned, this is a big one. And I'm going to tell you right now, at that particular studio, not Pixar, but Walt Disney Studios, that would be the first domino. Give it some time. Give it some time, because we are going to get some more dominoes on that one. And the interesting thing that I thought about, because when all this stuff with Harvey Weinstein came down, they started removing his name from credits on television shows and on films and everything else. I'm really curious to see if that happens with John Lasseter, because he's got a lot of credits out there. A lot of big, big films. In fact, I think he has an Oscar from Toy Story or one of those Pixars. Not positive. Nobody quote me on that. But it'll be interesting to see how they're going to handle that one. Because that one's even bigger than Harvey Weinstein, because Harvey Weinstein kind of founded Miramax and all that, but we all knew he was a creep, you know? Not everyone knew John Lasseter was a creep, and we're talking kids' movies here, we're not talking Pulp Fiction. There's a big difference. There's a big difference. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen there. On that same note of the mouse, and the mouse says, oh, bottom line, oh, profits, oh, shareholders, oh. That's actually what it sounds like in shareholder meetings at the Walt Disney Company. Now I'm going to get angry emails about that. For the two people that believed that's actually what, no, it doesn't. It's Bob standing up there talking to people. But on that note of greedy companies masquerading as family-friendly companies that care about their employees, we're looking at another huge round of layoffs from ESPN. Why do I bring that up? Because ESPN is owned by Disney. Why else do I bring that up? Because ESPN is looking to cut about $80 million in cost. $80 million in salaries and other costs. Story came out a month and a half ago that these layoffs were happening at the end of November. Well, the layoffs haven't happened yet. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. So, happy holidays to those of you that work for ESPN as you get your pink slip sometime over the next week and a half. And Disney and your stupid mouse, stop pretending like you care about people. Stop pretending like you care about people, because all you care about is your goddamn money. That's all you care about. Let's be realistic. And I would honestly respect them more if they would just admit that they're laying off a bunch of people to save money, make their shareholders more money, and move a bunch of millennials into these positions of sportscasters and other things that have been around for some time. Well, not on ESPN itself, but some of them have been around longer than I have been alive. But you know, let's get someone in there from Barstool Sports, you know, with a beard and an attitude and a love of craft beers. Oh shit. Is that what we do here on the show? No, it is not. I am very far from millennial. I have trouble even getting a live feed onto Facebook. So it's be hard to call me a millennial at that point. All right, let's move along here. Let's move along to a little bit of music. I don't have much music this week. Oh my gosh, I have missed one. No, we're going back because I got to tell you right now, I'm missing one. We're getting on to music in a second, but back to TV, film, and books. I had this vision in my head the other day. We talked about Terry Crews last week and how awesome he is. And if you've seen Step Brothers, there's a scene in Step Brothers with Will Ferrell, and I'm blanking on his name. Help me out there, Bridget. Blanking on the other guy's name. John C. Reilly. Just came to me, John C. Reilly. And they're stepbrothers. They're adult stepbrothers. If you haven't seen it. Yeah, Kevin, I don't know. I might be able to get behind the Zennials label. But remember in the 80s, they had this term, Generation Y? I don't know what happened to Generation Y. At the end of the day, generations don't matter. It's tough for me to call myself a millennial simply because I didn't grow up with computers. Millennials to me grew up with computers. Anyway, so Terry Crews. If you haven't seen Step Brothers, check it out. It's a funny movie. It is a funny. It's not like an amazing cinematic movie, but it's funny. Watch it at home. It's probably on Netflix. And there's a scene in that where John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell, they hate each other for a while, and then they realize that they have these things in common, and they look at each other and they go, one of them goes, did we just become best friends? And the other one goes, yup. And I had this vision over the past week of me like running into Terry Crews, and not that I'm actually going to run into him, and just running into somewhere on the street and being like, did you just become my favorite actor? And he just goes, yup. And like, that is what's happening with Terry Crews. And I'm going to tell you why. So we talked about Terry Crews and how he came out and talked about how he was sexually harassed many months ago. And then we talked about the debit card situation where the young lady was trying to get a debit card. Well, over the past week, what has happened was the unbelievably ridiculous Russell Simmons. If you're not familiar with Russell Simmons, I'm not even going to explain Russell Simmons to you. I'm not. You know what? If you're curious about him, look him up. However, he's a real son of a bitch. And what happened was Russell Simmons decided to come out and tell Terry Crews that sometimes you just need to let it go. Let it go. What was that? Been listening to too much music with my daughter lately. Just let it go. Just let it go. Called out Terry Crews on social media. Said, you just gotta let some of these go. Well, Russell Simmons, I don't know how many people you have sexually harassed. I don't know how many people you have sexually assaulted. But it's not cool. And you know what? As Terry Crews so eloquently put it on social media, no one gets a pass. No one gets a pass. So, Terry Crews, you're basically my favorite actor now. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, fantastic show. Everybody Hates Chris is on Netflix. Hector Camacho on Idiocracy. If any of you out there listening have not seen Idiocracy, go watch it. I'm sure it's on Netflix. And just keep in mind, it's not a documentary yet. Yet being the key word. All right, let's move on to some music. Man, too much beer this week. Oh, and Bridget, you're behind, and I just saw Chris joined. I had too many beers before the show, so if you haven't noticed, we've been off the rails a little bit. I think it's still working. We'll see where we go. And I'm kind of on vacation. Like, I don't get a vacation for my daughter. I'll still be working over the next couple of days, but my wife doesn't have to go in the office. So I get a little more freedom kind of during the day to work on videos and the podcast and everything else. All right, moving on to music. A couple things tonight. Nothing serious. I mean, nothing serious. It is a little serious. Nothing astronomical or newsworthy. Stuff you've all heard of. But we do have to recognize, rest in peace, David Cassidy. He was part of the Partridge Family. I'm not a fan personally, but I have huge respect for David Cassidy, and especially having grown up in the limelight and kind of coming out on the other side of that. And Bridget's excited because we're off the rails. And so rest in peace, David Cassidy. And I don't want to say more importantly, because not more importantly, more influentially to me and probably to many of you out there would be rest in peace Malcolm Young. If you're not familiar with the name Malcolm Young, he was one of the two founding members of AC/DC and was also the original guitarist up until a couple years ago. He started suffering from dementia and had some other health problems and had to leave AC/DC. He unfortunately passed away this past Saturday on November 18th on my birthday, unfortunately. And so rest in peace, Malcolm Young. You've given us some ridiculous ballads, some ridiculous guitar riffs over the years, and thank you for founding AC/DC. Because if you don't at least have some respect for AC/DC, like you don't have to like. I understand how you couldn't like their music, but you gotta respect what they do. I mean, they're just tearing through kind of the rock industry for the past 30 years. I mean, 30 years we're talking here. They've been around since the freaking 80s, maybe possibly 70s. I don't know. No one quote me on that, but at least since the 80s. So rest in peace, Malcolm Young. On another note, music note, the AMAs happened last Sunday. I think that's the American Music Awards. I really don't care. I didn't even know about it. The only reason I knew about it is because some people I used to work with were at the AMAs and had to post all about it on social media, how they were at the AMAs, because as we know, if it's not on Facebook, it didn't happen. Get the hell out of here. I don't even know what the hell the AMAs are. Although I think Wolfgang Darshan was watching, and I'm probably going to get some hate tweets from her when she hears this. On that note, I'm not giving Darshan a hard time for not being on the live feed tonight because she has a good excuse. She's actually at a concert right now with her boyfriend and with some other mutual friends and probably some other people I don't know. And that concert happens to be a band called GWAR. G-W-A-R. If you don't know who GWAR is, go YouTube it. I'm not even going to describe it. Go YouTube it if you've never seen GWAR. If you have seen GWAR, good luck to them. I was joking with one of my friends that's going, who's not even like a GWAR metal fan. He's like, I just want to go see what's going on. I was like, all right, dude, have fun. Which I probably would have done the same thing. I'd be curious to see, but I'm sure it's a ridiculously crazy show. Again, if you're not familiar with GWAR, YouTube them. And I will tell you one thing, if you're not familiar with GWAR, do YouTube them either way. But if you're not familiar with GWAR and you've seen the film Empire Records, you are somewhat familiar with GWAR because GWAR is the band that's on the television when Mark starts hallucinating from the pot brownies. Yes, so you are probably a little bit familiar with GWAR. I don't even want to do that. Around the show. Yeah, I'm going to skip that one. Maybe save that for next week. So here's a funny one. We're getting a little bit of sports. I love this one. Like, this one is just on another level of ridiculousness. This is right up there with Seattle, the Seattle Mariners and their 10-cent beer night. So there's this bar in Wisconsin. So this is Green Bay Packer country, for those of you familiar with the NFL. And they have this promotion that they've been running for quite a while now. And I think they were actually even doing it prior to this season. And so what they do is, they have a promotion that if you come into the bar, you drink free until the Green Bay Packers score. Now, the Green Bay Packers are a really good football team. They have a really good quarterback named Aaron Rodgers. Even if you're not a football fan or a sports fan, you probably know Aaron Rodgers from the State Farm commercials. He's the discount double check guy. You've seen him. Really incredible quarterback. Arguably the best quarterback in the league. Well, because of that, it doesn't usually take the Packers that long to score. You know, they usually score some points probably first, second quarter. Well, a few weeks ago, Mr. Aaron Rodgers got hurt, and he's out for the rest of the season. So they are down to their backup quarterback, who, as of late, has not played that well. Well, this past Sunday, the Green Bay Packers got shut out. Sorry, I'm laughing. I feel bad for the guy that owns this bar. They got shut out 23-0. Which means this bar was pouring free beer for a good 3 hours. I don't know, Chris, you're on there. Like, I know the runtime football game, but when we're talking like begin to end with commercials and halftime and everything, we're talking like 3 hours on an NFL game, maybe even more. 3 hours this bar is giving out free beer. I'm hoping that they also called a lot of taxis, because I would have been drunk as a skunk if I was in that bar, because I would have just been like, whoa, it's free beer. More beer. More beer. Oh, more beer. Oh. So everyone, maybe we'll set up a GoFundMe for that bar if they're going out of business. The good thing is hopefully people stayed and then continued to buy drinks after the game. But man, that's a lot of free beer given away. All right. We're still on sports. I don't even know how to approach this. I've been thinking about this one for a few days now. And we talked about the Orange Menace and how he cares more about UCLA basketball players than he does about the island of Puerto Rico. Right? Well, he got helped. I'm finger air quotes, helped. Because who knows if he did. He doesn't have any proof that he actually helped get these kids out of China. Well, and he said, well, their father should thank me. Their father, LeVar Ball. Don't look him up. Do not give this guy more airtime. I hate him. I don't hate him. I don't hate many people. I hate the Orange Menace. I dislike him. I'm just over his windbaggedness. His ridiculousness, and riding his son's coattails to become famous and make money. So what happened was he went on CNN the other day because they were like, why haven't you thanked the Orange Menace? Why haven't you thanked the Orange Menace? And we've gotten to the point where I'm agreeing with this windbag that I've been tired of listening to since the first minute of hearing him speak about a year ago. About a year ago when his son was at UCLA, and I found out who the hell this guy was. Finding myself agreeing with this because of the Orange Menace. He's on CNN saying, why should I thank him? Here's what I really agreed with him on. He said, doesn't the president have other things to worry about? That's right, Orange Menace. Do you have other things to worry about than some father in Chino Hills, California, not giving you a thank you? You know? Do I need to give thank yous in advance so you can help Puerto Rico out a little more? Because I will, Orange Menace. Thank you, Orange Menace. Thank you. Now go help fucking Puerto Rico. Instead of worrying about some dad giving you a thank you? Your ego is that bad? Thank you? And in fact, I want to look at this for a moment because I want to make sure all of the Wall fans understand this tweet that he put out. This was a 2-tweet set. And I'm going to read it for you, Wall fans, if you haven't seen it. It wasn't and this is quote, it wasn't the White House, it wasn't the State Department, it wasn't Father LeVar's so-called people on the ground in China that got his son out of a long-term prison sentence. In all caps, it was me! Too bad! Exclamation point. LeVar is a poor man's version of Don King, but without the hair. Just think, LeVar, you could have spent the next 5 to 10 years during Thanksgiving with your son in China, but no NBA contract to support you. But remember, LeVar, shoplifting is not a little thing. It's a really big deal, especially in China. Ungrateful fool. This is the president of our country tweeting words like this. The amazing thing is there's some people in this country that think this is okay. And this is why I can't sleep at night. This is a big reason why I can't sleep at night. Is shit like this. Shit like this. But please, Orange Menace, I'm glad you were able to take some time away from your golf outing to elicit a thank you from some father in Chino Hills, California. Because clearly you have nothing better to do. And if you think you have nothing better to do, here's something you can go do. Help Puerto Rico. You know, maybe do your effing job. Do your effing job. See, I avoided that bombs there. Alright, one more thing in sports. I want to talk about this because I want to make sure everyone's kind of aware of this. And even if you're not a sports fan, you're probably familiar with something called the Heisman Trophy. This is the premier trophy and award given out to a college football player every year. They award this to the best college football player in the country. And I bring this up because the front runner right now is the quarterback for the University of Oklahoma. Now, all of you Wall fans out there know that I dislike the University of Oklahoma, very much so. But I still have respect for them. Still have respect for their players. However, their player, Baker Mayfield, who was their quarterback. I'll give you a little background on him. When he was 17, 18 years old, got arrested and tackled in public for public intoxication because he was talking back to the police and then wouldn't leave. And then when they went to try to arrest him, he ran away. Got tackled. Earlier this football season, I can't remember what school they were playing at. They were playing at another school. University of Oklahoma won the game. He saw fit to take a University of Oklahoma flag, run out to the middle of the field, and plant it in the middle of the field, right into the logo for that particular school. Okay. Not cool, not the worst thing. This past Saturday, They were playing at Kansas, at the University of Kansas. What happened was, and I'm not condoning this at all. So, for those of you not familiar with football, you go out and you do a little coin toss to see who's going to kick off the ball and whatever else. And they send out a few representatives from each team. They're called the captains. And one of them calls the coin toss. It's kind of ceremonial. It's a thing. You know, it's an honor to be named a captain of the football team. And so Baker Mayfield is one of the captains, goes out, and there's usually a customary handshake with the captains of the opposite team before the game starts. Well, the University of Kansas players refuse to shake hands with Baker Mayfield. I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that, regardless of what you think of him, as a person. You're playing in a game here. You're a college student. Have some class, So I don't agree with that. However, what happened was, around the third quarter, the University of Oklahoma was beating up on Kansas. Beating up on him. Baker Mayfield's having a good game. He comes to the sideline after scoring a touchdown and sees fit to look over to the Kansas sideline, takes off his helmet, starts grabbing his crotch and yelling, "F you," to the Kansas sideline, except saying it. And we can see it mouthed on live television. Grabbing his crotch. And what's going to happen is this kid's going to win the Heisman Trophy. Win the Heisman Trophy. By being an incredibly disrespectful, petulant child. So, Baker Mayfield, grow up, and set a better example. I've always said athletes don't necessarily need to be role models. However, that is not the example you want to be setting. He should absolutely not win the Heisman Trophy. I encourage those of you that are interested to kind of go read up on the requirements of the Heisman Trophy. It's not all about on-field performance. It's about character as well. If he wins the Heisman Trophy, I am absolutely 100% done. I don't have much respect left for the Heisman Trophy, but at that point, I will be 100% done with any respect for the Heisman Trophy if Baker Mayfield wins it. And you can quote me on that right now. It is going on the podcast. It is on air on Facebook Live, and it will be on YouTube by Friday at the absolute latest. You can quote me on that, and we will have zero respect for the Heisman Trophy here at Go Tell to the Wall podcast if something like that happens. We just have to wait and see. It's in November. All right, I got a little special Thanksgiving segment here. We got about 15 minutes left in the show. Nothing groundbreaking or spectacular. But what I want to do, and I asked people to send their thankful stuff. I didn't get a lot of it. I think because we're on the short week this week. So I got a few of them, and I just, we're just not going to get into it. But I have a couple Thanksgiving stories. I do want to kick it off with my favorite foods. And I'm keeping it boring for you here. I'm a turkey freak. I absolutely love turkey. I am the kind of person that if someone's like, I'm making a turkey in April, I'm like, sweet, I'm there. Because I love turkey. I love fresh carved turkey. It is fantastic. Roasted turkey. And then what I do is, and my mother used to give me a hard time as a child, and as a teenager, and as a college student. My wife gives me a hard time. My plate is essentially just a pile of mashed potatoes and turkey with gravy on top. And then I top that off with a Pillsbury crescent roll. And then maybe another 2 or 3 Pillsbury crescent rolls. And that's Thanksgiving to me. I usually throw a little corn on it. And I have a little vegetables too. But really, like, I could sit and just eat plateful after plateful of turkey and mashed potatoes with gravy. And here's the kicker. For those of you that aren't familiar with the open-faced sandwiches, what you do with the leftover turkey. And I'm a big fan of leftover turkey. My mother is bringing a 22.5-pound turkey to dinner tomorrow for 6.5 people. The half being my daughter. She doesn't eat a lot. She's not a half person. She just doesn't eat a lot. So I'm saying half because 2.5 pounds is a lot. And additionally, she will be making a turkey breast because you cannot get enough turkey. And we will have leftover turkey for a week or so. And my favorite thing to do is the open-faced turkey sandwich. But here's what you do, Wall fans. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to let you in on my secret, which isn't actually a secret because I'm sure lots of people do it, but I learned this from my father, and I still do it to this day. You take the leftover turkey. You get a couple slices of bread. Throw a little butter on the bread, especially if you got homemade bread. That's even better. Homemade bread, even better. Throw a little butter on there. Okay? Then you throw a little layer of turkey down on there. Pile it up, as much as you want, really. Then you throw some French fries on top. Not mashed potatoes. French fries. If you have the means and you have a fryer, cut up some potatoes yourself, russet potatoes, throw those fries in the fryer, and then throw them on top of the turkey. Then on top, and you throw a little bit of salt and pepper. I like a lot of pepper. like a little, if you're not a pepper person, don't throw a ton of pepper on there. Throw a little salt and pepper, and then throw a little gravy on the top. And this open face sandwich, you eat that bad boy with a knife and fork. And I'm 100% positive on this. I'm telling you right now, literally, top 5 favorite meals of all time for me would be the leftover turkey open face sandwich. Let's try that one out if you haven't. I'm sure many of you have tried that, but that's what I do with the leftovers. And like I said, I'm a turkey freak. Turkey freak. Kevin, are you not a guar? It's not Kevin. Kevin, I thought you were going to guar tonight. I don't blame you for not. I'm too old to go to things like guar. All right, and I do want to talk, in the Thanksgiving theme, I want to talk about kind of what's going on with Whole Foods right now. And what's happening is they have a little turkey promotion going on. As we all know, Amazon bought Whole Foods. And I think they've kind of opened up a can of worms here. Because when Amazon bought Whole Foods, they lowered some of the prices and everything else. And it was kind of cool because Whole Foods was notoriously very expensive. Well, what they've also done is they're running promotions for Amazon Prime members. And what's happening is they're getting a little bit of backlash because you essentially have to have a membership to get these prices at Whole Foods. And Jeff Bezos, his reaction is, well, everyone should have Prime. I get it, Jeff. We got Prime in the house too. I got a Christmas gift from my wife that came with Prime today. It's freaking November. But because I got Amazon and Prime, send me a thing now before it's out of stock. It was literally one of these things that, like, I've been trying to buy it for a few different times out of stock. Came in stock, so I get it. We all love Amazon, but I think you are ostracizing some of your customers by doing this. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. And the reason this came up is because they're running a turkey promotion where you only get the discounted sale price on whole turkeys if you have a Prime membership. And the thing is, if you really, really need a turkey, you can get a 30-day free Prime trial and go get your turkey. The problem is that's going to do you no good next year because you've already used up your free trial and everything else. Chris, make sure you stay. Do not go anywhere. Bridget, if Chris is running away, make sure he's on here in the next 2 minutes because I'm going to talk about what I'm extremely thankful for on its anniversary. But first, we'll talk about the idiot of the week. And this guy is an idiot. So, lots of different ways to make turkeys. Deep frying the turkey became real popular years ago. And in fact, I have a friend who did a grilled turkey a few years ago. We were in Big Bear a few years ago for Thanksgiving, and he did it on the grill. Like grilled the turkey, and it was a long process. It's very similar to being in the oven, but it's grilled, and it's very good. It's very good turkey. So there's all these different ways. Well, there's a guy. I can't remember where. I'm not sure where this was, but Alan Payne, not the smartest guy on the face of the earth. He thought it would be a good idea to cook his turkey from the inside out using molten aluminum. So this would be melted aluminum, melted metal. He poured a bunch of molten aluminum into the middle of his turkey and thought the turkey would cook on the way to his friend's house, like finish cooking from the inside out. Well, Alan, unfortunately for you, that did not work the way you had planned. In fact, it turned into basically a huge mess. The molten aluminum burned a hole in the bottom of the turkey, and parts of the turkey were cooked, and parts of the turkey were completely raw. And in fact, this article that I had been reading said that basically all he got out of it was the aluminum cast of the bird's neck. I don't know what you would do with that. Maybe a centerpiece for next year. That could be cool too. I don't know. So, wall fans, after I just said there's lots of ways to cook a turkey, molten aluminum? Not one of them. Not one of them. Don't attempt that. If you were thinking of attempting it, we have seen it debunked. It doesn't work. Just doesn't work. Please don't ruin turkeys. If you really just look to ruin a turkey, you can send it to me. As I said, I love turkey. I will eat it every day of the year. I might get tired after every day of the year, but and lastly, and most importantly, for the Thanksgiving section would be, and actually, I take that back. So I want to talk about a couple things I'm thankful for. As I said at the top of the show, I'm thankful for all of you Wall fans. I am thankful for my family and my friends. I'm also thankful because I'm thinking back to a year ago, so a couple weeks after my daughter was born, we lived in a house that was literally half the size of the house that we're currently in. For those of you that have listened to the podcast from the very beginning, you know that I was in a very, very small room and had to set up my studio basically every week when we would record the podcast. So I'm thankful that I have a house where my daughter can crawl around. My daughter has room. I have a studio, and my family can come visit for a nice dinner on Thanksgiving. Something I'm extremely thankful for. In addition to all of you out there, and my health, obviously. I'm not going to get cliche on you here, but one thing I'm incredibly, incredibly thankful for, and Chris, I know you will agree with me on this, and I bring it up because tomorrow, Thanksgiving, will be the 5-year anniversary of the greatest play in the history of the NFL, and that would be the butt fumble. That's right, Wall fans, the butt fumble. I want you to look this up on YouTube, and in fact, I'm going to share a clip on the Facebook page, probably right after the show. This is the absolute greatest play in the history of the NFL. And of course, it involved the New England Patriots picking up a fumble after somebody ran into his own player's butt and then running it back for a touchdown. That's right, the butt fumble. Look it up on YouTube, Wall fans. Look it up. And I'll be celebrating that tomorrow because I'll tell you right now, 5 years ago on Thanksgiving, and it's funny because this came up in my little Facebook memories thing. 5 years ago on Thanksgiving, University of Texas played during the day. The New England Patriots played that evening. And my father and I, the Sanchez, what? I forgot about that nickname, the Sanchez. Butt fumble. But it was awesome because my father, who I'm a New England Patriots fan because of, we were watching it live. And I will never forget sitting there and I was actually getting ready to head out to a friend's house. And I was like, I gotta watch the Patriots game. And they started killing him. And I was like, I'm gonna go see my friends. Jeffrey Jackson. I was actually going to see him and some other friends. But we're watching it. Watched it happen live. And my father and I both looked at each other and went, Did he just run into that guy's butt? Like straight into the guy's butt? And then they start replaying and we're like, he did! He ran into his butt! And then he lost the ball! And then we picked it up and got it. It was just unbelievably fantastic. So today, I am also very thankful for the butt fumble. 5 years later. And we'll be talking about it 5 years from now. Chris, he will never, that's what's funny, he will never live that down. Ever. The quarterback that ran into the guy's butt and fumbled it, he'll never live it down. Because, like, it's just your own player. Like, and look it up on YouTube, Wall fans. Look it up on YouTube. It is comical. It is insanely comical. Alright, we're running short on time, and we're off the rails, but I do, and we're going to talk about this more, but I do want to just touch on this a little bit. Gosh, we got a couple of them. I'm going to save those two, because those are important. What's happened here, I pushed all the common sense stuff to the back of the episode, and we still got to talk about this, but I do want to talk about one thing, and that would be the great Andy Richter, who might also be my other favorite actor right now. And that would be because of his reaction to a Twitter post. I've talked about this before on the podcast because I've been faced with this personally. And I will tell you right now, the worst thing to say to anyone with a mental illness, whether it's depression, anxiety, bipolar, whatever it is, the worst possible thing you can say, and this is 100% the worst possible thing you can say, is you have a choice. That is 100% the worst possible thing you can say. Because maybe there are plenty of people out there that are ignorant and don't understand that it's not a choice. But for those of us that suffer from a mental illness, understand that it very, 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 very much is not a choice. In fact, I wish it was a choice. I wish there was a switch that I could just click. Oh, my anxiety's gone. My OCD's gone. Oh, that's amazing. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Well, Andy Richter, who suffers from depression, called out someone who posted on Twitter saying depression is a choice. So I'm now a huge Andy Richter fan. And went off on it. And I encourage all of you out there, especially if you want a better understanding of mental illness and the importance of mental health and everything else, is to look this up. Follow Andy Richter. And that will give you a little bit of insight into my world. Even more than the insight that I give you on this podcast. That will give you that little bit of insight. And the most irritating thing is I clicked on the profile of the person that had posted this, and I realized it was some woman. I don't even remember her Twitter handle or anything. It was some woman. And I looked through all her stuff, and it's all about how God finger quotes, wall fans, God can help you through your depression. And it is a choice. And if you choose to love God, that will help your depression. Well, wall fans, well, ignorant bitch on Twitter, you know what? God doesn't give a shit. He does not. I'm going to tell you why. I've suffered from mental illness my entire life. My entire life. I grew up Catholic. I taught religious education to teenagers at my church. I was an altar server. Altar server. On the altar. Holding the book for the pastor at my parish. I was that respected as an altar boy. I was one of the few that was allowed to hold the book. Sang in the youth choir. Spoke at retreats. And helped run retreats. Well, you know what? I did that for a long time. My depression didn't go away. My anxiety didn't go away. My obsessive compulsive disorder didn't go away. So you know what? Get your God the hell out of here. I don't want to hear it. That's fine. Love God and pray and everything else. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I fully respect that. Don't tell me that God's going to fix my fucking head. Don't ever tell me something like that. And don't spew stuff like that on social media. Remember a few weeks ago we talked about triggers? Ignorance like that is a trigger for many, many, many people with mental illness. And wall fans, as you know, we are huge proponents of mental health and awareness for mental illness. So we're going to continue to rail against these things. And I know I've gotten a little ranty, and this is what happens when we talk about mental illness and I've had too many beers. It happens. But I take it personally. I really do. And I encourage all of you, if you want a better understanding, follow Andy Richter. Follow Andy Richter, because I'm not going to get through his entire thread, but he really lays it out, really better than I really do on this show. Because what happens is I start ranting, and then my mouth moves quicker than my brain. That's what happens. That's kind of the way it goes. All right, I got one more thing, and I'm only bringing this up. This is a story that actually came out of Houston. And what happened was there was one woman had this happen to her like twice, where she was driving down the road and a guy pulled up to her and next to her and said, "You have a flat tire. Pull over and let me fix this for you." And it happened to this woman twice. And so she posted on Twitter or one of the social platforms a warning to other women in the Houston area not to do that. And another few women came forward and said, "Oh my gosh, this has happened to me too." So what's happening is you have drivers in other cars, and it could be a man or a woman. This just happened to be men that the women were talking about. It could be a man or a woman saying, "There's a problem with your car. Pull over. Let me help you fix it." And then they're looking to rob you, assault you, whatever else it might be. So I bring this up for two reasons. I bring this up as a warning because this problem most likely isn't just happening in Houston. This is probably happening elsewhere. So be careful out there, especially women. And I don't mean that in a sexist way. What I mean is men are much creepier than women in my experience. You're probably going to find more men driving around doing stupid stuff like this, as opposed to more men than women. But it got me thinking, because it's really a shame. And it's really sad, and here I am, I'm going to pull up a Bible story. The Good Samaritan. We've all heard this. The Good Samaritan, who helps someone on the side of the road. These just don't exist anymore because people, like these guys in Houston, have found a way around that. Who can you trust anymore? I'm going to tell you, when I was a teenager, that happened to me once. I had a flat tire, and it had just gone flat, and someone pulled up next to me and said, "Hey, you have a flat tire." I said, "Oh my God, thank you." And as I started pulling aside, I could feel a flat tire. Oh my God, thank you. I was actually about to get on the freeway, and they saved me from getting on the freeway. But can you trust that anymore? Can you? It's such a shame that we live in a society like this. And really, I'm spoiled, and Bridget and Chris are on here too. You kind of have to flip, not a mental illness switch, but flip a switch, because I'm spoiled, because when you go to Burning Man, that is the society that you live in. Now, there are creeps out there. Stuff happens out there. But for the most part, that is the kind of society they're building out there, where you're helping each other. And unfortunately, we just can't live in that kind of society in the default world anymore. But I will tell you, wall fans, those of you that listen to the podcast and watching everything else, if I see someone driving down with a flat tire, I'm going to take my chance. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to offer you help. So if you see my face and my big-ass beard poking out a window and saying, oh my gosh, you have a flat tire, you can 100% trust me. That sounds so creepy, doesn't it? But what I want to do is, this is where we need a revolution. Net neutrality and all these other things are important too. But we all need to be better for each other. We really do. Be better to each other. Be better for each other. Be better for our families. Be better for our friends. Be better for the future. And that's what we need to work to build. And as much as I rant and rave and talk about all these negative things on the podcast, really that's what the podcast comes down to, is positivity. We rant about these things because common sense says that's not a positive thing. You know? We give good on yous to everyone else that's doing great positive things. It's just what we do. And so on that note, Wall fans, we are going to call it an episode. That's right, this has been episode 37. 37 of Go Tell It to the Wall podcast. As always, and especially on this Thanksgiving week, thank you all for joining. Remember, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/GoTellItToTheWall, or on Twitter, @TellTheWallPod and @MagicMuppet. Also search on YouTube. You can find all the awesome videos. More Go Tell It to the Baby videos will be coming soon. And of course, you can find links to all of those things, bios, pictures, videos, everything on SeanO'RourkeLive.com. So check that out as well. As always, thank you for joining. But of course, this week especially, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much. Don't drink too much. But eat a lot and drink a lot. Just not too much. Just not too much. Not to the point where you're going to pass out. I'll probably be passed out on the couch tomorrow after eating too much turkey with a football game on in the background, because that's just kind of what happens in our house. And my father will probably be passed out on the couch next to me. So that's what I have to look forward to on Thanksgiving. But enjoy your Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Don't buy into consumerism on Friday. They're going to have those same kind of prices other times in the year. You don't need a TV for Christmas. Get over it. You know, but if you need to do it, do it. I'm not going to stop you from doing it. And that would be it. That's it. I am, as always, the one and only Sean O'Rourke, coming at you with Go Tell It to the Wall podcast, episode 37. As always, with passion. We have a lot of passion on this show. So much passion. I just can't contain it. I'm just kidding. It's a little less passion. We've had too much beer. But most importantly, Wall fans, remember, no matter what you do, no matter who you meet, no matter why you do it, no matter where you go, always, always, always use common sense. All right, Facebook friends, Wall fans, social media friends, thank you all for joining. We had a lot of jump-ins and outs. Thank you, Bridget, for joining, as always. That's our on-air producer, Bridget Hassong, and also our stats and facts person, which would be Chris Hassong, who's also, they're both kind of pseudo on-air producers. It's funny because if you've noticed, I go to each of them for like different things, and I get a little worried because I think if people are jumping onto the podcast, like the live feed, I remember a couple weeks ago, it was about Vin Scully. And I was like, Bridget was talking about something, and I was like, oh no, Chris will know that. Well, not because Chris is a guy. I just know them both personally, and I know Chris would know a baseball question easier than Bridget, you know? And there's some things that either one of them could know, and that's what happens. So, that's just, please, nobody think I'm sexist. But thank you to Chris and Bridget for joining. I saw Kevin get in there for a few. We had 2 Kevins on the show this week, I think, because my cousin, Kevin, also joined. But as always, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining. We got more stuff coming down the pipes. I'm working on all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, as Bridget is commenting, sports ball. Bridget is not super knowledgeable about sports. Go figure. You know, that's what happens. When you're not into sports, you tend to not be knowledgeable about it. When you're not into things, you tend to not be knowledgeable about it. Like, I was reading these books that I'm not even going to get into it. But they're kind of an offshoot of Dungeons & Dragons, very funny books, but I don't get half of it because I never played Dungeons & Dragons, like, so I just don't get it. And so it's like, well, if you don't know about something, you're not going to know facts about something. That's how it is. But thank you again, Bridget and Chris, for joining. Thank you for keeping me in line as much as you could with one too many beers this week. We will be back next week. Next week, Thursday, we'll be back. Same wall time, same wall place. So look for us on the usual day next week because it won't be Thanksgiving. And just a warning to all of you, chances are we're going to be missing an episode in December because of everything going on with family and Christmas and all that other good stuff. So keep an eye out for that. But we will have a special Christmas episode for Go Tell to the Wall podcast, complete with ridiculously ugly sweater and all of that good stuff. So, again, thank you all for joining. I am the one and only Sean O'Rourke. This has been Go Tell to the Wall podcast live feed for episode 37. Always have passion, Wall fans. And remember, everywhere you go, everyone you meet, always use common sense. And now we're going to wait a minute, and now we do the Bridget Freeze. This is sponsored by Bridget, literally. The Bridget Freeze.